Good morning, internet friends. I have been on a low histamine diet now for the last 3 weeks in an attempt to heal my skin. Is it working? We'll talk about that later, but I figured I would bring you guys through a full day of eating low histamine because a lot of you requested that. A lot of people in the last few years have been discovering MCAS, or mast cell activation syndrome, as well as histamine intolerance, which can go hand in hand, I think, because there's been an uptick in people developing MCAS. And the low histamine diet is something that can help with both histamine intolerance and MCAS. So for any of you going through that, I hope this video is very helpful. So before I show you what I'm eating, let's quickly touch on like what histamine is and how/why it's found in food. Histamine is a compound that is naturally produced in our own bodies by mast cells as part of the immune response. Specifically, when you're having an allergic reaction, your mast cells release a bunch of histamine. So our bodies naturally produce it. They're supposed to be producing it. Histamine is not inherently bad for you. Like, you need histamine in your body. It plays a part in the sleep-wake cycle. It plays a part in digestion. So it's not literally just like you touch an allergen, your body releases histamine, and that's all it does. So in the context of a low histamine diet, histamine is a compound that is produced by organisms. So by the human body, but also by bacteria. This is why there are no fermented or aged foods allowed on a low histamine diet, because the longer you've let that bacteria do its thing, the more histamine is produced. So like me with my kombucha addiction, I was consuming a lot of histamine. This is also why leftovers are high histamine, which has just been so fun because it means I have to cook literally everything fresh every single day. I can't meal prep. The diet itself, honestly, not too difficult for me. It's just how time consuming it is to have to cook literally everything every single time I want to eat. But then there's also a lot of foods that are naturally high in histidine, which is an amino acid that bacteria easily break down into histamine. So foods that are high in histidine are also kind of a no-go on the low histamine diet, just because of how likely they are to also have high levels of histamine thanks to any bacteria that might have come in contact with the food. So like spinach, for example, high in histidine, therefore no go on a low histamine diet. But then we also have foods that are histamine liberators. So they don't have any histamine, they may or may not have any histidine, but the way that they interact with the mast cells is they get into your body and they can kind of like poke holes in the mast cells, and then histamine is released that way. So it causes your body to release more histamine. And then you also have foods that are not any of the previously mentioned things, but decrease the body's production of DAO, which is the enzyme that breaks down histamine. And if you don't have enough DAO, that's just going to lead to an accumulation of histamine in the body. So you need to make sure you're not blocking that pathway as well. When you have histamine intolerance, your body is basically overproducing histamine, and it's kind of a vicious cycle, because when you produce more histamine, your body thinks you need to produce more histamine, and then if you're eating a bunch of histamine on top of it, you just have so much histamine in your body that your body can't get the levels back down to normal. They just stay overactivated. And so in theory, if you have histamine intolerance, go on a very low histamine diet, you're lowering that histamine load and your body can start to heal and regulate itself. So the goal with this diet is to reduce foods that have histamine, reduce foods that have histidine, reduce foods that are histamine liberators, and also reduce foods that block DAO. And then also, I have been intentionally trying to add in foods that support histamine clearance. There are a lot of different compounds that can support histamine clearance and support your body if you are histamine intolerant. The main one being quercetin, but there's also like vitamin C and just so many other compounds. So I found a whole list of foods that help with histamine intolerance. I've just been actively trying to incorporate those into my diet as well. So I will highlight those when I get to them throughout my day. First off, we have hydration, but this isn't just any old hydration. This tea is packed full of things that in theory should help and support your body if you do have histamine intolerance. The first thing I added was shilajit, which is a resin that has anti-allergic properties as well as a lot of other cool properties. It's a multi-mineral, it's really great, but it can also work against histamine releasers in the body. Then I added nettle tea and hibiscus tea. Nettle, from my research, is probably one of the best teas to add into your diet if you are trying to go low histamine. It acts as a histamine agonist, reducing the impact of histamine on the body. It also helps stabilize mast cells, which are the cells that release histamine. And then hibiscus is rich in quercetin and camphorol, which are both compounds that just help stabilize mast cells and decrease histamine release. And then I added my element electrolytes. Electrolytes are super important in stabilizing the body's histamine response. Sodium can help decrease the histamine production by your mast cells. Really should be no surprise because electrolytes are so critical for so many many functions of your body that it makes sense that they would also play a part in stabilizing and optimizing the histamine release of your immune system. The more I've learned about electrolytes in the last few years, I just read The Salt Fix, by the way, which very interesting book about sodium intake and why it's so necessary and all of the amazing things that sodium does for our body. But the more I learn about it, the more asking about someone's electrolyte intake is happening earlier and earlier when I'm working with a client that's dealing with any sort of issues, whether it be difficulty losing weight or fatigue in the gym or any sort of other like weird imbalances. Like, electrolytes impact every single cell in your body. So if you're not getting the right balance, it can impact your gut health, it can impact your hormone health, it can impact your immune health. And adding in electrolytes to the water that you're hopefully already drinking is one of like the easiest things you can do. So histamine intolerance aside, if you are looking for something to throw into your life that's really easy, that can have a far-reaching impact on your health, I do highly recommend checking out Element Electrolytes. It is a tasty blend of electrolytes with everything you need and nothing that you don't. So no sugar, no fillers, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, etc. And it contains the science-backed electrolyte ratio: 100 milligrams sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium. While on the low histamine diet, I am using their unflavored variety because it's literally just sodium, potassium, and magnesium. But their flavored ones they're so good. The raspberry salt, grapefruit, oh, my favorites. And right now, Element is offering you guys a free sample pack with any order. So if you place an order, you get a free sample stick so that you can try all of the different amazing flavors. They even have a chocolate flavor. How fun is that? I think they're literally about to release their chocolate medley for the holidays, which is gonna be chocolate mint, chocolate chai, and chocolate raspberry. So like, stay tuned to them for that. But anyway, if you go to drinklmnt.com/fitandnerdy, you will get yourself the sample pack so you can try all of the flavors and decide which ones you want to get next time. I'll leave that link down in the description box below. Check it out. And then the last thing that I added into my tea is honey, which, to be honest, mostly in this just to mask the Shilajit flavor because it doesn't taste fantastic. But honey also inhibits mast cell degranulation, which is just the process of mast cells releasing histamine. So inhibits histamine released from mast cells. Honey is very well known for its anti-allergenic properties. You know, if you move to a new place and start getting allergies, people say to eat the local honey. It's not just a wives' tale, it is science. Pudding has been my go-to breakfast for almost every single day, honestly, of being on the low histamine diet, mostly because it's just hard to think of anything else breakfasty that is also low histamine and like relatively healthy. I made a personal decision to basically avoid eggs on a low histamine diet as well, just because it seemed like there was such a strong correlation between people who needed to be on a low histamine diet and people who couldn't tolerate eggs. Like, there's just so many people in all the forums that I'm in for histamine intolerance that can't tolerate eggs, and I was like, if I'm already eliminating stuff, might as well also get rid of eggs. And so I haven't been having eggs for breakfast, and all of my other favorite go-tos are eliminated, so this was basically what was left. But the great news is that blackberries and blueberries, which I would normally add to this, but the grocery store's been out of blueberries lately, they can help with histamine clearance. And then bee pollen also has anti-allergic activity, which is so fun. It has the ability to protect mast cells from degranulation, so it protects them from like getting punctured by the things that do that and cause it to release the histamine. In one study, histamine release was inhibited by like 62% in those that consumed bee pollen. And then, as I said before, honey, also anti-allergic activity, and that's all over this as well. Putting this low histamine diet in the context of like my greater health and fitness journey and philosophy, this honestly isn't my favorite breakfast, mostly because for some reason I tend to get hungrier faster after eating this. I think it's just the lower protein. There is almost 20 grams of protein in this, but I usually end up making breakfasts that are between like 30 and 50 grams of protein. Like my chocolate frosty smoothie bowl can get up to like 50 grams of protein. But I guess now that I think of it, those breakfasts are also usually a couple hundred calories more than this. So it could also just be that there's not, maybe I should just double the recipe and eat, but I'm usually really full by the end, probably because there's so much freaking fiber in this. I don't think I could eat anymore, which goes to show why fiber is super, super helpful when you're trying to lose weight. Today's just been a super boring day, getting lots of work done, but now it is snack time. I'm going to have an apple and I will be slathering on some almond butter as I eat it. Almond butter, neither here nor there when it comes to supporting or being bad for histamine intolerance, but apple, on the other hand, very, very high in quercetin, which is one of the compounds that helps with excess histamine. It is particularly concentrated in red apples and in like the red pigment. So the apples with more red pigment on the skin are going to be higher in quercetin, better for histamine intolerance. So I went with, I think this was like a Cosmic Crisp apple. I don't know. It was one of the reddest organic apples that I could find in the grocery store. Okay, not entirely sure if this is boredom hunger right now because I've literally just been like sitting at the desk all day working. But I'm feeling a little bit hungry, so I'm having a snack. Disclaimer, I don't know that these are 100% low histamine. When it comes to processed foods, you can't really know, but the ingredients themselves are low histamine / low in foods that would cause issues for histamine. It's literally just cassava, avocado oil, coconut flour, chia seeds, and salt. So I'm gonna snack on some of these while I work. When it comes to things like this that are kind of questionable, I have been like limiting my intake of this. So like, I'm not gonna sit here and eat a whole bag. It's not like I'm going through an entire bag once a week. Just low-key, casually having a couple chips. For dinner, I am making a giant low histamine Buddha bowl, starting with quinoa, which contains nutrients like copper, manganese, and zinc that can help lower histamine levels. Also gonna throw some rice in there, and then I just cooked that up with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, some turmeric, which, as I said before, represses mast cell activation, and then just threw in some Italian herbs, cooked that right up. And then for the veg, I'm doing some sweet potato, which also contains nutrients that can help lower histamine levels. Added some diced up carrot and some broccoli, which has vitamin C, which helps with histamine. Then I just covered that all in extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of salt, a little bit of Italian herbs, and threw that in the oven at like 425 for like 20 to 25 minutes, I think. Then for some protein, I'm doing some ground beef. And now you have to be super careful with where you source your meat, particularly ground meat, because any amount of aging in meat contributes to histamine formation, and grinding the meat also makes it even more susceptible to histamine. So I source mine from True Beef Organic, where they are just super careful and conscious about how they produce their meat in order to minimize histamine production. So I cooked up about 6 ounces just with some salt and Italian seasoning. And then once all of these various things were done cooking, threw them all in a bowl with some romaine lettuce, some arugula, which has vitamin C, which supports histamine clearance, some cabbage that has quercetin, which also supports histamine clearance, radish, which contains anthocyanins, which have antihistamine properties, and red onion, which also has quercetin. And this might not look like much, but it is so good. Highly, highly recommend. It feels so hard sometimes to get variety and like flavors and textures and stuff on a low histamine diet, just because it is kind of restrictive. But this bowl, it's got all the little things. Got a little crunch from the roasted veg, got a different kind of crunch from the fresh veg, got the rice and quinoa texture, you got the beef texture. It's just delicious. I have been making this for dinner for the last few days, and let me tell you, it is so good. I almost forgot to update you guys on whether or not this diet is working for me. As of now, it has been 3 weeks on very strict low histamine diet and lifestyle. Not only am I limiting my food intake, I've also refused to go hiking because of all the environmental allergens, and because last time I went hiking my skin flared, so I thought there might be some correlation. I'm not doing any intense exercise because exercise can release histamine. I got an air filter for my bedroom to get rid of environmental allergens, so like I'm doing all the things. And unfortunately, I can't say that I have seen much of an improvement with my skin. Before I started the diet, my skin was already trending better after my last flare, which was maybe what, a month-ish before I started this diet. And it did continue to get better. Like my skin hasn't gotten worse on this diet, but the healing trajectory went about as fast as it was going before, and about as fast as I would have expected it to without being on this diet. And I kind of got back to baseline where I was before I flared. So like I had a lot of issues on like my chest, my neck, my arms, my shoulders, my face, etc. And that's like 95% gone, which is back to where it was before. And then my hands are still just a little bit messed up, which is how it was before. And since I've hit that baseline, I haven't really noticed much change or improvement. This has been a bit of a roller coaster so far, because when I first started, my skin was healing. It was healing from the flare, but it was healing. I was like, okay, great. Like maybe it's just gonna keep healing and it's gonna get 100%. We're gonna be great. And I was like, okay, like we're in this. And then the progress just kind of slowly stopped. Like a week ago, I was more than 50% like feeling positive about it. And as of today, I am feeling 75% not positive about, not like negative about it, just like don't think it's doing anything. But I am gonna stick it out for the rest of the next week to get the full 30 days. Because I feel like if I were to give up now, I would just constantly be thinking to myself, like, what if I had given it a full 30 days and then I might have to do it again? I don't want to have to do it again. So I want to give it a full 30 days. But as you can see, I feel like I'm doing everything that I can. And if I had histamine intolerance in any capacity, this should have helped, because I'm not just getting rid of like the dietary things, I'm also adding in the dietary things that can help. Like this tea, which I'll talk about in a second. It's 2 more different teas that I added. The other teas that I was having, the other things that I'm adding to my diet, all to help support histamine clearance. Like if I had histamine intolerance, something should be changing. So keep your fingers crossed for me that at least at the end of the 30 days, it's pretty conclusive one way or another. You know, if I start spontaneously healing tomorrow, that will be very, very exciting. But also, if it stays the exact same for the next week and I notice 0 improvements, then I'll at least be able to like check this off the list as something that was not helpful for me specifically. So anyway, my second giant cup of tea for the day. This is a Tulsi ginger tea and a mint tea. Mint tea? Is that what I did? Yeah, mint tea. Mint can inhibit the release of histamine from mast cells. Tulsi is a natural antihistamine that affects the H2 histamine receptors. And ginger is also an H2 inhibitor and has mast cell stabilizing qualities. And then I also finished off the Element electrolyte packet in here. Not gonna lie, I was really hoping this would work. Like, I only gave it about a 50% chance logically, but emotionally, I really wanted this to work, obviously, because I just want something to work, but I also just don't really know where to go from here, because with all of the testing that I've done so far, it did kind of indicate that it's not a dietary issue, or at least like not related to my gut health. I did one very extensive gut health test, and at least the practitioner who reviewed it said that she had like never seen a healthier gut, and the only issue that I really had was like slightly low digestive enzymes, but like not even low enough to really be concerned about. She's like, we could try supplementing, but I don't know if it's gonna do anything. So I tried supplementing, it didn't do anything. So unless that test was a fluke or she just interpreted the test results incorrectly, I don't think it's diet related. I feel like I'm at a little bit of a dead end, and so I think I'm gonna look into a lot more testing, because there's gotta be something that comes up in my blood work, in my gut work, in something that can point me somewhere in the right direction, because you can't be having long-term chronic skin issues and not have something somewhere be not optimal. So that said, if you guys can think of any specific tests that I should do, please let me know in the comments below. The gut health test that I did is the GI map test. I also just did a Viome test, and I'm waiting to get my results back on that. I'm looking into a couple ways to do like comprehensive biomarkers and just like test everything, but would love suggestions in case there's something I'm just like not thinking of or missing, or something to look for in those comprehensive tests and make sure that it's testing for that. I don't know. Any suggestions would be much appreciated. And with that, I think I'm going to get back to work. Not me just working like a 12-hour day today. It's fine. Been so productive. Feels really good. Questions, comments, concerns, help, suggestions for lab testing or other things to look into, leave them down in the comments below, pretty please. Do make sure you check out Element at drinklmnt.com/fitandnerdy. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. It really does support me and my channel. I really genuinely appreciate it. Please share this video with your friends, your family, your fitness buddies. If you want to see more content from me all about health and fitness, you can check it out over here. See future videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the little notification bell so you get notified when I post a video, and I will see you very soon. Bye!